Hello and welcome to In the Field, exploring and identifying fieldwork term experiences. My name is John Link. I am the Associate Dean of Career Development and Fieldwork Term at Bennington College, and I am joined by my colleague, John Holste, Assistant Director of Career Development and Fieldwork Term at Bennington College, who is going to lead today's presentation. John, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, John. I am really happy to be here and speaking with you all about exploring and identifying fieldwork term experiences. This is something that Bennington students oftentimes may have some questions about. So we're here to discuss all the different possibilities that go into exploring and identifying those different opportunities. So we'll start off today providing just kind of or discussing learning outcomes of today's session. So what you can sort of expect to take away from today's session, we'll go over that and what some of the goals are. We'll also look at reviewing fieldwork term options, requirements, and the objective of fieldwork term. I think it sometimes helps to have sort of a refresher and to review some of the main aspects of fieldwork terms, along with what the goal is and what fieldwork term is all about. We'll also outline some of the different stages associated with the fieldwork term search process. Like many things, there are different phases that go into the fieldwork term search process. And so we'll kind of take a closer look at each of those different stages and what they represent. And then we'll talk about strategies for using a diverse approach to identifying and securing fieldwork term opportunities. And really, that is at the heart of today's session is talking about using a diverse approach and not necessarily relying on just one or two search strategies, but rather using a multifaceted approach to exploring different fieldwork term possibilities that might be out there. And then we'll review helpful resources to utilize in your search. Our office has put together a number of different resources that are really, really valuable that can really help with the search process. We'll also discuss some additional tips and recommendations, and then close out with a question and answer, an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have about fieldwork term and the fieldwork term search process. So diving right in. So the learning outcomes, by the end of today's session, I'd like for you to be able to have reviewed important fieldwork term requirements, options, and expectations, learn about the goals and objectives of fieldwork term and the fieldwork term search process, explore essential resources and uncover multiple strategies to use as part of your search, to develop an action plan, and then, as I mentioned, a chance for you to receive any answers to questions that you might have. So starting off with fieldwork term requirements. So as you likely know, fieldwork term is a graduation requirement, and students must complete one fieldwork term per academic year. So that's 4 total. Just as a reminder, the summer 2024 fieldwork term registration deadline is April 26th. So that's a little shy of 2 months from now. So you may be thinking there's plenty of time to do that, but time flies. And so I really recommend being proactive and getting started on this search sooner rather than later. And then you may wonder, why is following this timeline important? It is the first step in a multi-step workflow that is associated with the fieldwork term registration process. So on April 26th, that is the registration deadline. Our office will then review all of the registrations for summer fieldwork terms. And we will make sure everything is in order, is good to go. Once we do that, we pass that along, or we approve the experience and send it to the employer, who then reviews the experience and approves it. So the April 26th deadline is just that first step as part of that process. John, is there anything you wanted to add on to that?
Yeah, I think it's just also important to note that students can check the status of their submitted experiences to know where it's at in the approval workflow. It's likely that almost all of the positions, or excuse me, all the registrations submitted up to probably a week past the April 26th registration deadline. We'll still be in that pending review as the office staff review each of the submitted registrations, and then move on to the employer, who will, as you shared, John, who will review and approve the position or offer any edits that they want made to the position before it moves on to the final approval. But just being mindful of those deadlines and ensuring that if you have any questions about the registration process, that you're being proactive and communicating with the fieldwork term office well in advance of the April 26th deadline.
Absolutely. Thank you for elaborating on that. Some fieldwork term requirements. So the employer and student must sign the student-employer agreement. So this just ensures that everyone is on the same page. All the expectations are clear among all parties. And then the student must meet the expectations of the position as described by the employer. And then ensure your supervisor provides an exit interview during your final week of fieldwork term and submits a final evaluation. So these are essential required components that go into fieldwork term. And then submit the required self-reflection assignment on the final day of fieldwork term. So this is your opportunity to kind of synthesize all that knowledge that you've gained, the experience you've had, and then reflect on that. And then, of course, complete 200 hours and maintain a timesheet, which must be signed by the site supervisor. So what are some different fieldwork term options? If you want to explore more in depth all of the options that exist, you can take a look at our website where we outline them, but we'll just kind of cover with a high-level overview some of the different fieldwork term options today. So the first one is on-campus student employment. So with this, actually, John, would you care to share some of the kind of information that's associated with on-campus student employment and which types of student employment constitute a fieldwork term experience?
Of course. So it's always a good option to explore a campus job as one of your 4 fieldwork term experiences as you see an opportunity to do so. And that might be typically explored during your first or second year of study, but the experience needs to be over the duration of the designated fieldwork term period. For instance, if you are working in Raza's Cafe as a barista during the fall and the spring terms, that wouldn't qualify as a fieldwork term registration. It would have to be over the winter or the summer fieldwork term periods, and those opportunities are very limited and hard to come by. But for house chairs or first year foreign lead instructors, those campus jobs could be registered as an academic year campus job fieldwork term, but those registrations would need to be submitted during the fall term. So if anyone will be planning to be a house chair or a first year forum leader in their second, third, or fourth year, they may count that as a fieldwork term experience if the registration is submitted during the fall registration deadline. I hope that clears up some general ins and outs about campus jobs as a fieldwork term registration.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, John. In addition to select on-campus student employment opportunities that can constitute the fieldwork term experience, also internships, which tend to be the most common or one of the most common options that students use, so they can be paid or unpaid. There's also the top fieldwork term experience, which is rather new and actually led by Dr. John Link, and then also co-facilitated by myself, but that is a career development centered synchronous class that is offered in the fall and summer terms, and is really centered around career exploration, personal branding, and career management strategies. So it's really useful information and can serve as one of your fieldwork term experiences. There's also apprenticeships, which are an opportunity for you to obtain hands-on experience in a specialized trade from a skilled professional. So that is sometimes an option that students opt to use. There's also independent study, which you have to be, a requirement is that you're 5th term or above and have previously completed a fieldwork term experience. But an independent study is an option that is when you would be working with a full-time faculty member who would be the supervisor and would be providing some guidance on a project or some type of independent study plan that you propose and put together. So that is also a fieldwork term experience possibility. And then finally, the fieldwork term fellowship, which provides funding, mentorship, and a cohort of students working with you in a particular focus area, things like environmental action, food insecurity, and population health, public action, and things of that nature. So those are the most common fieldwork term experience options. And as far as what fieldwork term experience is all about, what the goal is, they're designed to combine theory and practice to deepen knowledge and understanding and enhance work-related capacities. So this is an opportunity for you to have an immersive experience and to then synthesize that knowledge gained academically and put it into practice. So this is your chance to get that hands-on experience in an immersive environment where you're generating valuable experience. So the different stages of the fieldwork term search process. I mentioned before there are a number of different stages, and I've decided to go with the field theme and thought that it would be prudent to kind of compare the different stages of fieldwork term search process to growing crops on a farm. So the first stage is planning your fieldwork term experience. So in this stage, you're kind of getting ready to identify what it is you want to do. And so you may be identifying which crops you need and preparing and tilling your field to get it ready. The second stage is exploring your options. So this would sort of liken to exploring soil conditions and climate and deciding on the different crops that you want to grow. The third stage is preparing and updating your application materials. So ensuring that your all of your application materials are reflective of the types of skills and experiences that an employer is going to find notable. So that is similar to, say, fertilizing the soil at that stage. And then initiating your search, or in this case, planting the seeds. After that, there's registering your fieldwork term experience. Again, April 26th is the deadline for the summer 2024 fieldwork term. So that would be similar to kind of patiently waiting for the seeds to germinate. So once you plant the seeds, you don't expect them to grow right away. You need to give it just a second for Mother Nature to do her thing. So the next stage would be beginning your fieldwork term. So that would be kind of nurturing the crops, watering crops, providing sunlight, and then finally concluding your fieldwork term experience. And that would be kind of harvesting the yield and reaping the benefits of that. So let's take a more in-depth look at each of those different stages and what kind of goes into it. So for planning your fieldwork term experience, you want to first really clarify your goals. So consider what you're hoping to gain out of this experience, what skills you want to develop. They may be soft skills, they may be more technical skills. Maybe there's different work environments that you want to immerse yourself in and get experience in. So maybe you've had an experience working at a small company, but you'd like to work at a larger company, or maybe it's a public versus private or nonprofit versus for-profit. Whatever it may be, you may want to get some different experiences in different work environments. And then finally, generally, what will you like to get out of the experience? So, these are different things that are helpful to really consider upfront before you even start looking into fieldwork term possibilities, but really to clarify and to identify for yourself what your goals are for the fieldwork term experience. And then consider your longer term academic and career goals. So it really helps to think, more into the future and think about what your larger long-term goals entail. and then just sort of reverse engineer from there and determine what sort of incremental steps need to happen in order for you to reach those goals. And how does this fieldwork term kind of play into that? Does this align? Does this make sense along your path to get to those larger goals? So that's another kind of important aspect to think about when planning for your fieldwork term. And then think about the logistical aspects of a possible experience. There may be a number of different kind of elements that go into fieldwork term possibilities that may or may not be as feasible, or may require a lot more kind of planning and a longer runway to make sure everything's in place. So things like geographic location, where is this fieldwork term experience going to be held? Are you going to have secured housing for that experience? Are you going to be able to travel to that site? And then living expenses for meals, overall funding while you're engaging in that fieldwork term experience. So you want to really be proactive and set up a budget and save up in advance if your fieldwork term opportunity is one that requires more resources and more planning ahead of time. So these are all different things to think about while you're in that planning phase. And then utilize the fieldwork term resources. So we have a ton of different resources, as I mentioned. So there's the fieldwork term search planning checklist. This has lots of good information and just kind of ensuring step by step that you're on the right track and that you're doing everything that needs to be done while you're in that process. We also have the fieldwork term registration prep worksheet. So again, this is very useful information as you're engaging in this process to make sure that you're on the right track and that you're considering everything that needs to be considered for this process. We also have the fieldwork term housing guide. So this one is very, very useful for, as I mentioned before, some fieldwork term experiences. If you don't have housing secured already, that is the responsibility of the student. So that's something that you would have to make sure that you are able to secure. But we have these resources here to provide a lot of information and helpful information for ensuring that you are able to secure the housing that is necessary for fieldwork term. And then considerations for funding your fieldwork term experience. And then finally, the fieldwork term budgeting form. So all of these resources are available on our Linktree, as well as many of them on the website, and then on Handshake in the Handshake resource library as well. So I'd like for you to think to yourself, what are some different fieldwork term experiences that you would like to have? What experiences have you considered exploring in the future? So it may be helpful to just briefly think about that and consider that. All right. So exploring options. So you want to begin exploring fieldwork term resources, both specific to Bennington as well as external resources as well. So I mentioned some of the different Bennington specific resources we have, but there's also a whole internet full of different resources. So obviously there are a lot of general job search engines and other resources online, as well as more industry specific resources. For instance, professional association and organization websites often have a lot of information that students may find valuable that can be used during your fieldwork term search process, including the names of industry professionals, resources for identifying different opportunities, internship listings. Also, it may provide more information about specific companies or organizations that you might want to incorporate into your search as well. So both Bennington specific and general external resources can be helpful. And then I also recommend exploring the resource library in Handshake. So this has, again, so many valuable resources. They're all broken into different categories. So here's a fieldwork term planning section, which includes a number of different resources that are really, really essential for providing guidance and support throughout this process. There's also resources dedicated to resumes and cover letters and application materials. But there's also this fieldwork term search archive, So we have them broken down into two different categories. So fieldwork term archives by career interest area, and then also by specific US cities, so geographic locations. But what these archives are is a compilation of all the different previous fieldwork term sites of other Bennington students who have conducted fieldwork term experiences before. So for instance, here's the animation archive. When you click on it, it will tell you the employer name, the job title, the job description of what that student did as part of their fieldwork term, as well as the job function. It's got the contact name and contact email of, in most cases, the site supervisor from that site, as well as the address and the location and website. So this can be really, really useful for generating some different ideas, especially if you're not sure where to begin. This is a great way to see what other Bennington students have done before, and to get to serve as a starting point for seeing what different possibilities are out there. Also, if you happen to see any companies that you realize that you would also like to have an experience at, well, there's already the contact name and information of individuals from that site. So you're not starting from scratch. You already have sort of a lead where you have the information of those individuals. So as I mentioned, archives are based on both US cities and career interest areas. A great resource that I really recommend taking a look at. Yeah, so that's a great starting point. John, is there anything else you wanted to kind of mention about the resource library in Handshake or the archives?
Yeah, I think all of the conversations that we have had with students who were unaware of the fieldwork term archives, after reviewing some of the categories, there's a number of categories as John was filtering through the career clusters and where students have previously completed fieldwork term experiences at, really opened up their mind to explore different types of opportunities. I cannot stress how important that database of previously completed experiences can be as you begin to plan your next fieldwork term experience, but may focus on opportunities a year or two down the road as well. So use those resources or request an advising appointment so that you can walk through some of those categories together and discuss how some of those experiences, if available, in the future could fit within your short or long-term career goals.
Absolutely. And in addition to the resource library and Handshake, I also recommend checking out the job section of Handshake as well. So there are a number of different filters that you can use to identify different opportunities. You can apply all these different filters to find some very specific opportunities that you might be interested in engaging in. So definitely incorporate the Handshake jobs as part of your search process so that you're opening up as many possibilities as you can, and so that you can make the most informed decision about where you're going to hold your fieldwork term experience. And in addition to these different filters, there are the Bennington collections, and you can also sort just based on internship or part-time job, full-time job, all of that information. So you also really want to ensure that you're completing your Handshake profile to the fullest extent, to 100%. That way, the types of opportunities that you are made visible to you and that are promoted to you are going to be in line with what your career goals involve and what you might be interested in terms of career interest areas. So definitely incorporate the Handshake jobs into your search process as well. And then utilize online job search engines and conduct research into possible opportunities and organizations of interest. I mentioned before there's general job search engines, I think everyone's familiar with things like Indeed or Google Jobs or things of that nature. So that is definitely something you want to also incorporate into your search, but not necessarily rely on that. Again, using that multifaceted approach to the fieldwork term search process is ideal. And then consider your existing professional contact network. So the reality is that most opportunities are oftentimes acquired through word of mouth and through referrals. So I recommend thinking broadly about people that you may be connected to already. So maybe there's, different faculty members or current or former instructors or people that in your daily life that you're connected to that, you may not realize right away are in a position to provide you with, information or resources or things of that nature. So definitely kind of think about people in your existing contact network, family, friends, coworkers, classmates, people in your community, whoever it may be, and think about who might be in a position to kind of point you in the right direction or provide some information or insight. In addition to that, it really helps to expand your professional network and grow even further. So I recommend making connections with people with experience in your field, including alumni or, as I mentioned, members of professional organizations who are working in your field of interest. These would be great people to connect with and to expand your professional network. I would also encourage you to consider the idea of informational interviewing. And if you're not sure what that means, it's essentially identifying someone who's working in your career field of interest and really just seeing if you can ask them some questions, kind of get their perspective, learn what they like about their role, how they got involved in that field, what they would recommend for someone looking to get established in that field. So it's really a great opportunity for you to kind of satisfy your curiosity and ask people who are actively working in those fields and get their insight and get their perspective. So while I don't necessarily recommend asking outright for a job or fieldwork term experience opportunity, a lot of times the conversation can sort of naturally go in that direction. They may ask you, what you're interested in doing and things like that. And they may just happen to know of an opportunity that you might be interested in or pass along your information to someone in that field or something along those lines. So it's a great proactive strategy that you can use to make sure that you are learning from people who are actively working in that field and kind of getting their insight and their perspective. One way to identify people that you might want to connect with is through the Bennington College LinkedIn alumni tool. So every academic institution, including Bennington, has an alumni tool where you can search based on whatever field whatever keywords you want. So I clicked on the animation career interest area fieldwork term archive before. So if I type in animation here, this will show, so there's 109 Bennington alumni associated with animation. They all appear down here. And then you can search and see where they work. You can see where they live. You can sort based on what they do, what they're skilled at, what they studied, so on and so forth, until you narrow it down to find some very specific people who might be in a position to provide some insight and can provide some their perspective about working in that field, and potentially from there you may have a conversation about different opportunities that you might be interested in. So that's definitely something that I recommend taking advantage of. Being able to kind of identify Bennington grads and getting connected with them can be a really great way to learn about different opportunities. Additionally, conduct employer research. So sometimes it helps to think about it from the other perspective and think about, what you would like to be doing and what type of opportunity you would like to have. And then to think which types of companies or employers typically offer those opportunities or are involved in those types of roles. And then to focus your search on that and to look at different companies that may be aligned with what you're looking to accomplish. So So when I mentioned kind of using that diverse approach to the fieldwork term search process, rather than relying on one or two strategies, it's using all of these strategies together. So first, using multiple online resources to identify opportunities. So those are Bennington specific or external. Then engaging and expanding your professional network. So really kind of brainstorming and thinking about people you're already connected with. And then further expanding your professional network and getting connected to other people in your career field. And then finally, conducting employer research and determining which employers typically hire people or offer these types of opportunities for students. So again, I'd like for you to take a moment, think to yourself, if you could talk to anyone in your career field of interest, who would it be? And what would you like to ask them if you had a chance? So just think about, if you were to hold an informational interview, who would you like to talk to, and what information would you like to ask them? John, do you have anything to add about using a diverse set of strategies as part of the fieldwork term search process, or anything you wanted to elaborate on?
No, I think you covered it all very thoroughly. I just can't emphasize enough, in combination with any of those strategies, early planning and engaging with or understanding what your goal may include will help build some movement with whatever strategies you're using in combination to identify a fieldwork term experience. Certainly employ a variety of different strategies to achieve your goal, but early planning is what I emphasize is most important when you are beginning your search.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Which leads us to kind of the next stage. So that is preparing and updating your application materials. So ensuring that your resume, your cover letter, everything is designed to highlight your notable skills and experiences that are relevant to the types of positions or organizations that you'll be applying to. Really make sure that it's going to be as reflective as possible of those notable skills and experiences that you possess. So develop your application materials, really make sure that it's emphasizing key attributes as part of your personal brand, and that it, any intended audience of that your application materials are going to realize quickly and easily why you would be a great fit for that fieldwork term experience or for that role. And then craft a concise yet descriptive outreach email to any potential employers by really looking at the Guidelines for Professional Correspondence resource. So we have this Guidelines for Professional Correspondence resource that includes email considerations, and it's got sort of a boilerplate or something that you can adapt, sort of a sample of reaching out to an employer. So a lot of students I work with they say, I'm not exactly sure how to begin that conversation or what to include in an email. Well, this is a great resource for kind of making sure you're including all the different essential components that need to be there, and making sure that if you're reaching out to potential employers, that the information you provide is relevant, it's concise, it's to the point, but it also is descriptive enough to give them an idea of why you would be a great fit. And then utilize the Career Development Fieldwork Term Office resources. So that's our Guidelines for Resume Writing and Guidelines for Cover Letter Writing. These are really, really valuable resources that contain a lot of great information. So I recommend taking a look at these and just making sure that your application materials are polished, they're as good as they can be, and are really doing an effective job of outlining your notable skills and experiences. And again, you can find those different resources on our Linktree, on our website, and on the resource library in Handshake as well. And then really begin thinking about interviewing strategies and consider scheduling a practice interview with a career advisor. So hopefully at some point you are invited for an interview, and so it would be helpful to to do kind of a practice run, a trial run, and to schedule a practice interview so that you can iron out any details and so that you can feel confident in your responses for the real thing. So think about scheduling a practice interview with a career advisor, and also know that we can help any step of the way. So definitely don't be a stranger, as John mentioned before. Be proactive. If you have any questions, schedule an appointment with your career advisor. We're here to help you, to guide you through this process however we can. So definitely take advantage of that opportunity. So the next phase is initiating your search. So this is where you begin applying to positions of interest, again, well in advance of the fieldwork term registration deadline. You're kind of operating on the potential employer's timeline, so you want to make sure that you are applying early and apply to multiple opportunities. So maintain alternative plans if needed. You may have your sights dead set on one type of opportunity, but really make sure that there are different alternative plans in place if need be, or just explore all the different options that might be out there, and don't put all of your eggs in one basket, so to speak. And then stay organized. Keep track of outreach attempts and the current status of your pending applications. Chances are you'll probably apply to several different places or opportunities, or send many different outreach emails. So keep track of all of those different outreach attempts so that you're staying organized, and that you know when to follow up with different employers. Speaking of which, take that opportunity and really follow up with potential employers. I can't stress this point enough. If you haven't heard anything after about a week, it never hurts to check in with the employer, let them know that you submitted your application, and just see if there's any additional information that you can provide. And what this does is it really ensures that it gets you on their radar, so to speak, and it ensures that they're aware that you are genuinely interested in the position enough to want to reach out and to get in contact with them. And so it shows initiative. It shows that you're genuinely interested, and it's definitely a helpful action that you can take. Rather than just kind of applying and leaving it be. Definitely following up with the employers is ideal. All right, so now I just wanted to cover some additional tips and recommendations. So as I kind of alluded to a moment ago, you can meet with a career advisor at any point during this process. So we're here to help you at every stage of the fieldwork term exploration and application process. And know that we understand that Bennington students have a diverse range of interests. There's kind of no one-size-fits-all approach to this. So we want to kind of help you achieve whatever it is that you want to do with your unique goals, and kind of make sure that you have personalized assistance with anything that we can assist with as part of this process. So definitely don't be shy, and feel free to schedule an appointment with your career advisor. You can do so on Handshake by clicking on Career Center and then Appointments, and scheduling an appointment that way. You can also email our office. You can call our office. And you can also stop by our office as well. And then be courteous and professional throughout all communication with potential employers. So the first impressions really are important. Just make sure that you're being professional in every facet of your communication. So whether that's in-person, email, phone, whatever it may be, just ensure that you are presenting yourself in the best way possible and being professional. And then plan ahead, as John mentioned before. Being proactive, planning ahead really is essential, but also be flexible and adaptable. So sometimes situations or opportunities arise that we might not be completely prepared for or expecting, but be open-minded about new learning opportunities that may be presented to you, and any new challenges that may take place, and to look at challenges as opportunities. And then finally, utilize the extensive list of resources. So I mentioned before, we have so many different resources, including on our Linktree, which I highly advise taking a look at. There's so many good resources that can be very useful as part of your search. And so definitely take a look at that. Also our website, and then the resource library in Handshake as well. A number of different resources that can help you along the way. But again, if you have any questions or want to meet with a career advisor for sort of personalized assistance, we are more than happy to do that, and look forward to talking with you. So at this point, that concludes my portion of this. I wanted to check in with John. Is there anything else you'd like to reinforce, or anything else any other information you'd like to provide?
Yeah, I think you hit on something really important that's worth repeating, that when you're applying for positions, you're doing so with casting a wide net around as many positions that align with that specific type of goal. So as John shared, not counting on that one experience you applied for to work out, as sometimes it does, but in many instances you want to have different options for your fieldwork term experience. Also, timing there's a general theme here of early planning, but also when you begin applying for positions, or as John shared, implementing your fieldwork term search plan. Applying for jobs the 3rd or 4th week of April, and expecting to wrap up that process in a week or so is not realistic. So it would be in your best interest to begin identifying opportunities now and filling out applications, and then following up so that you can have something secured going into that registration window. And yes, we do understand that maybe there will be a scenario where you have multiple offers for fieldwork term experiences, which can be very exciting to decide which position or which opportunity is going to align best with your long-term career goals. And we'd be happy to also review and discuss what option would be most favorable for what you're looking to achieve. So, but early planning, timing is everything, and tracking your efforts and your follow-up strategy will help you stay organized throughout this process.
Absolutely. Great points. And then the one last thing I would recommend is scheduling an appointment to meet with a career advisor, so we can provide assistance throughout any stage in this process. So I just want to say thank you all for attending, and then John, thank you for all of your insight and the perspective you bring, and thank you all, and have a wonderful evening.